Here's how a few smart online coaches are building profitable content businesses without social media. Hello, I'm Ty Gaucher.
And I'm Anthony Winery. And over the last 3 years, we've generated over $1 million with our coaching business through 15-minute solo podcasts that allows them to attract dream clients into their business without posting on social media.
So in this episode, you'll discover the real reason social media isn't working to grow your coaching business,
the 2 types of marketing online and why one of them is secretly draining your energy,
and finally, the single mindset shift that separates coaches who struggle to get clients versus those who have a wait list.
Imagine for a second you land in a new city. You're hungry, starving actually, and you have no map in sight to tell you where things are. Let's say Google didn't exist. And then you see one restaurant in the distance with a line out the door. And you think to yourself, that must be the best spot in town. You follow the crowd, you have a sit down, you eat your food. Maybe it's great, maybe it's overpriced, maybe it's average. Either way, you picked it and decided to have your dinner there because it was the most visible option for you, not because it was the best fit for you.
In principle, that's exactly what it's like when you don't have a reliable way to get clients and you just fall into the most common and loudest option, which is, of course, the first thing you see when you open your phone. Post on social media, create content in short form, and get clients that way.
Most online coaches we speak to, they jump into this game, posting on social media, trying to get clients that way because it's the most visible option. The same way when you go to a new city. The other day, we had some friends over looking for a place. Really, we just looked at what's the most visible option for us to go to. It wasn't like some tactic, we were just hungry.
Yep.
Now, I think, Tug, it's important to know that most of the coaches that we work with, they're problem solvers, and that's part of their identity. They like solving problems. So what tends to happen with these online coaches is they've jumped into the deep end with social media because it's the only option that they view as a way to get clients. They struggle to gain traction, to generate leads or clients from social media, but because they have this I can do it mindset, I can figure it out mindset, they apply that same mindset to a vehicle they're not even passionate about. So now they're like 2 months in, 6 months in, 2 years in, trying to figure out social media, trying to solve the problem because they view themselves as a problem solver, even though they're basically solving the wrong problem that isn't aligned with the business they actually want to build.
Kind of like if you are trying to cross America and it would take a long time. Let's say you used a cart and a horse and that was just the way you were going to do it. You're at your dinner party where you announced to all your friends and family, this was what you're going to spend your next year doing. And everyone was like, yeah, the cart and the horse. Like I know people that do that. I know people that use the cart and the horse. It's got to be the cart and the horse. So then you spend your next month or so training up your horse, like feeding your horse. I don't know what goes into it. Just building the most pristine cart, just getting all the nitty gritty of like swapping out the wheels for these golden wheels. And before you know, you've invested so much time, energy, and resources into perfecting this cart and having a great horse too. And then you get started on your trip across America, and then people are flying past you in cars because actually you fixated on one way of getting to a certain outcome, whereas actually there's just different vehicles and different ways of getting to the same outcome.
Now, the reason why this is a massive issue for most online coaches is because they start promoting, trying to build their business in a way that isn't really aligned with what they actually want. However, because they've been basically thrown into the deep end, they stop looking at alternative ways to sign clients online, and they're convinced that the only way for them to sign clients online is the most visible option, which is posting on social media.
Now, it's not that social media completely doesn't work to get clients, right? We know people that have done that. For some people, it works very well. So what's the disconnect here?
I think the disconnect is that for the people who it does work really well for, they actually are passionate about it. They enjoy that. They wake up excited to crack the algorithm, but people that actually do genuinely enjoy that.
Yeah.
But the ones that haven't cracked social media is likely because they fall into one of 2 camps. The first one is they have not invested the time, energy, money, or resources to actually figure it out.
Yeah.
In which case it's like, well, if you didn't put effort in, how are you expecting to get a result? That they're just not going to succeed. And if you apply that mindset to anything that you do, you won't succeed anyway. Why is it that so many online coaches who say they want to make impact and sign clients, why do they then not put in the time, effort, investment needed to figure out social media?
because something's holding them back. And usually it comes down to they're not passionate about social media as a way to market themselves. That doesn't feel good to them in some way. Think that they should invest more time and effort into it. They just don't.
They're just not invested, are they?
No.
The second reason that we see is they actually do invest the time, they do invest the money, they do give it a really good go and put the effort in, but they still don't crack it. And funnily enough, it comes down to the exact same reason as the first one we spoke about, which is they're just not passionate about it as well.
Yeah.
So even though they're investing the time on your energy, on a subconscious level, they're very aware they don't really like social media and they're having to force themselves to play a game they secretly just don't want to play.
And so even investing the time or money or resources up front, they may get some better output for a while, but it will never sustain or grow into what it can be because of the lack of energy alignment or passion going into it.
In comparison to what the person who actually is passionate about it.
Yeah, or it feels natural to do short form content. Some people, they don't even start with the algorithm in mind. They
enjoy
just
it.
Social media because that's what they wanted to do. And then it blows up as a result.
Now, we had to find this out the hard way that if you're not passionate about the way you market your business, the likelihood that you succeed is close to zero.
Even with the right tactics.
Even with the right tactics. And even worse, even if you do succeed in building a business and marketing yourself in a way you don't like, you're essentially building a prison for yourself because you're now choosing to build a business that you actually don't like. You don't like how you're marketing yourself. So either way, you're pretty much screwed. Now, remember, what was it? 4 years ago when we started working with business owners to grow their podcast?
Yeah. So it was 5 years ago. So 2021, even like 2020.
One of the main strategies that we recommended was for them to post on social media. And we just kept getting pushback.
It was just such an uphill battle for every client. And depending how much they could personally weather the storm, which came down to factors like how much spare time they had, what was going on in their personal life, their niche, things like that, would depend the extent of how long and how hard they could put up with this strategy. But it was always putting up with the strategy, and there would always be like a straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
Where there would have to be a hard conversation or a lot of coaching. And now in hindsight, having coached well over 250 business owners, we can say back then it was a lot of coaching just to get someone to do a strategy.
Simply put, they just weren't passionate about it. We saw that play out on both fronts in terms of people who just didn't put the effort in because they didn't want to, they weren't passionate about it. And the people who did put the effort in because they wanted to make it work, even when it did work. Do you remember we'd have clients where like it was working very well for them. And then all of a sudden we look at their business and like it slowed down. And we're like, guys, what was going on? Like, have you stopped doing something? Have you stopped posting on social media? Have you stopped reaching out to people? And they're like, oh yeah, I've not done that for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and even though they understand it worked, because they didn't like it, they just hoped that maybe now they were done and it was going to carry them through. You come up with all kinds of reasons to stop doing something, even if it's working, if you don't like it.
And for the longest time, we were both convinced that that was the way. That was the only way, because it was the only option that we had seen up until that point. We weren't really exposed to alternative ways of growing businesses, which is social media was the way.
Until we found a guy who had grown his podcast to 300,000 monthly listens, and he had no social media at all for his podcast, and he hadn't used that a single time to promote himself to get to that point. And he didn't already have an existing audience or anything like that, which was crazy to us when we found out all about what he did.
Now, he used a very specific way to grow his audience, build his business through pull marketing, where he'll post his content on a platform that allowed him to be discovered by dream listeners, dream clients who are looking for his podcast, for his show, which is a completely different way to market a business in comparison to push marketing, pushing on social media, posting content daily, keeping up with the algorithm, forcing yourself to be online, to build a business, even though you don't want to be online and build your business that way. So that was like a light bulb moment for us when we recognized, like, okay, well, if this guy, Jake, was able to get this result and he did it through this specific way that didn't need social media, how can we get our clients to get the same result without social media?
And it came back down to reverse engineering what type of marketing he used, what the psychology behind his marketing was compared to behind everyone else's social media. And in his case, he had engineered his podcast to rank on page 1 of Apple and Spotify So whenever someone typed in better sleep or how to improve my sleep, which people were doing like all the time, every day. So he just showed up on the page and he was just the obvious option. And he was getting all of the traffic, all of the views and all of the conversions from that. Now that is grounded in pull marketing because he was just there showing up when people were looking. Now this is also known as inbound marketing or attraction marketing, where basically you don't start the interaction with a prospect. They come to you. That only works because people are coming to you because they have a problem and they're looking for a solution. And then because of your content, your presence, your reputation, and of course also where you appear, in this case it was Apple and Spotify, you are found when they're looking.
Our clients ate that up. And thankfully we figured out a way to actually get them ranking consistently on page one. So they were positioned as authorities and were able to attract dream clients into their business. They loved that because it meant they didn't have to focus on push marketing, pushing on social media, which they just weren't passionate about.
The key difference with push marketing is that you initiate the interaction with a prospect. So things like reaching out to people is push marketing. So every time a client made a social media post, someone liked it, and then the client reached out to that person after, that was push marketing. And really, even just putting content out there on social media designed to grab someone's attention when they weren't looking for it, that is rooted in push marketing.
So over the years, we've worked with clients to master pull marketing, and we do it specifically through 15-minute solo podcast that ranks on page one of Apple and Spotify and allows them to attract dream clients into their business without social media.
Which is an interesting statement to many because content business, you just assume that has to be social media. How could you build a coaching business that is profitable? You don't need a massive team. You're not spending loads on ads, like it's predominantly through content, and social media not be part of the equation. That's like saying I'm having a listening party, best albums of all time, and Thriller by Michael Jackson not even been on there.
That's like saying you're big into movies and someone asks for your top 10 movies and Pulp Fiction doesn't make your list.
It's like saying you can build a profitable pizza restaurant with no tomatoes.
It's completely ridiculous, right?
Yeah, right. But it's true with 15-minute solo podcasts. People are searching on Apple and Spotify for podcasts, not the big celebrity interview ones with a guest, but like information-specific podcasts about improving sleep, a fitness podcast about losing weight over 50, such as a parenting podcast about parenting teens with autism. Some more niche, some more broad than those examples. And that is the equivalent of the white base pizza. That is a real thing. Some people like make a killing with, some people love, some people have whole restaurants dedicated to, but the average person just doesn't know about or wouldn't consider when thinking about pizza. That is the equivalent for online coaches who just think, well, how could I do XYZ without social media?
We've had clients who've been able to accomplish this. Clients like Martin, who earned $30,000 in sales after launching a new coaching program. And the backbone of his content business was his podcast.
Yeah.
Creating content, getting that content ranked on Apple and Spotify, and then having that content be found by his dream clients who were looking for his content. And he had a very niche podcast, which was helping screen actors land their very first roles.
Or Becca, who was a sobriety coach for women over 50 specifically. Sobriety isn't that niche, but sobriety for women over 50 is quite the niche. So when women over 50 were looking for content about quitting alcohol, about sobriety on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, number one, that was happening hundreds of thousands of times a week. Number two, Becca's podcast became the go-to resource. And without having to post on social media, without having to do any kind of push marketing, Becca became the authority in that space, hit her first 10K month, and now lands clients regularly from, again, having the podcast as the sole backbone of a profitable content business.
So most online coaches are using their problem-solving abilities to solve the wrong problems, focusing on how they can sign clients using social media, and they aren't passionate about the way they market their show. Now, if you're not passionate about posting online, if you don't wake up excited, riveted about the idea of cracking the social media algorithm, yet you're forcing yourself each and every day to try and solve that problem, is that really the best use of your problem-solving abilities? Or is there a much more aligned way for you to market your business in a way where you are passionate about marketing yourself? Because if you don't figure that piece out and continue to force yourself to market in a way that isn't passionate, you're going to hit the same issues where you get low engagement, no leads, and you don't consistently sign the clients you want to sign because you secretly hate the way you're marketing your show. Whereas other online coaches have found a much more passionate way to market their business through pull marketing. For our clients, they post 15-minute solo podcasts that allows them to be found by their dream clients who are searching for solutions to their painful problems. This is how clients like Becca hit her first 10K profit month, or how Martin was able to attract dream clients into his business without relying on social media. You can do the same for your business and have way more fun, feel way more fulfilled, and get way better results because you're no longer trying to force a marketing strategy you hate. So if that is you, feel free to hit subscribe to the channel, go through our back catalog where we share with you how to hit those consistent months without posting on social media.